Happy weekend, my MPP peeps. Welcome to another edition of the Weekend Free-for-All. I'm going to go over all the indices and some names I like for this week. And if you like what you hear today, you want this type of analysis each and every day, go to northpostpartners.com, click on the trading service section and sign up. It's just $50 a month. You can cancel anytime, and the first month is free. All right, guys, let's get to it. Okay, the S&P this week just had a really nice consolidation week above this 10 SMA. It's finding resistance here at this 3,400 level, and it will likely take a bit to get through this. I think at the very least, we're going to get some consolidation this week between this 3,400 and this 3,330 before we break higher. But ideally, I would love to see some sort of pullback. It would be very healthy if we can get a pullback to the 0.236 retrace from this low to this high to around 3165, right at the 50 SMA. Even better would be this 200 SMA or the 0.382 retrace right at 3028. If we do get this kind of drop, this kind of pullback, I think this is an excellent buying opportunity. However, if we just grind it out here and consolidate, work off some of these frothy, bullish sentiment and overbought conditions, and then break higher, I do think we see this 3,500 first. But for me, the key is this 10 SMA. If the 10 SMA holds, I think we see this 3,500. If the 10 SMA fails and we close below and starting to move below, I think we get this 3165 area first. All right, let's go to the Qs. The Qs, still strong, consolidated last week, held the 10 SMA. It looks like it wants to tag this 280 area, which is my upper target. I do expect to see some resistance here at the 280 area. Ideally, we start to pull back and work off some of these this frothy sentiment and overbought conditions in the Qs. I mean, just look at this tremendous run, guys. I'm looking for some sort of pullback down here to the 50 SMA. More ideally, the low 240s. That would be an ideal position, ideal target for a dip buying opportunity. However, I'll start loading the boat if we can get down to this 50 SMA. But we may want to take this 280 first. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm pretty light right now because this area, this upper target area is so close. I would rather wait for a pullback to this 250, 240 area before I get aggressively long again. A pullback is coming. It will come at some point, and I would rather have a lot of cash when that pullback comes. Let's look at the IWM. IWM's been strong, but had a consolidation week this week. I'm seeing resistance up here in this 162, 165 zone. And let's see if we can hit those targets. But if the 10 SMA gives way at any point, I do expect some sort of pullback down to this, back to this test, this 200 SMA and this 50 SMA around 146, which just happens to be the 0.236 retrace from this low to this high. So this would really be an ideal pullback scenario and dip buying opportunity if we can get this 146 area. Next up is the DIA. DIA, nice consolidation week, holding above this 10 SMA. It may want to extend up to this 283, possibly this 293 area if the market continues to rally. But at any point, if this 10 SMA does give way, I expect some sort of pullback down to this 50 SMA, 200 SMA, which just happens to be the 0.236 retrace from this low to this high. So a pullback down here to the mid 260s would actually be a great dip buying opportunity. However, again, we could just grind it out, work off the overbought conditions, and then plow through up to this 293. So we'll just have to wait and see what the market decides. Okay, let's go to the VIX, which continues to show investors are not willing to sell yet. They want to hold on, see how much more gains they can get as long as we stay below this 200 SMA. Volatility is going to remain low, and we could continue to grind higher. What we want to see is some sort of spike in this VIX to indicate that maybe a pullback is on the way. So we will continue to monitor this VIX, but right now it's saying investors want to keep their investments. Okay, let's get to some ready to rock trades that I see setting up for next week. Okay, first up is BYND, Beyond Meat. Playing dead here. Okay, it's frustrating both the bulls and the bears. No movement whatsoever. But it is holding this 0.382 retrace from this low to this high. So I think if it can get back above this downtrend line, it could potentially go on a tear, and my target would be 198.72. So if this trade does trigger, I'll go for this 198.72, and my stop will be a daily close back below the 10 SMA, which is currently at 130.21. All right, next up is BGFV, Big Five Sporting Goods. Has been on a really strong run as of late and is pulling back to its 10 SMA. If it can get back above Friday's high, looks like 706, we can get back above 706. I'm going to get long this name and go for my next targets of the upper nines are 1050. So like in between 979 and 1050. And my stop would be a daily close back below the daily 10 SMA, which currently sits at 648. So nice reward, very little risk. Next up, we got CHGG, CHEG. Been on a nice run here and pulling back to its 0.382 retrace from this low to this high. It seems like it's holding it. If it can get back above this 10 SMA, I'm going to take this for a long with a target of 99, just call it a round number, 100. And if it does trigger back above this 10 SMA, my stop will be a close back below the back below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 81.50. Next up, we got eBay. eBay's been on a really strong run and is consolidating nicely above its 0.236 retrace from this low to this high, and looks like it wants to break out again. If it can get back above 57.60, the high of Friday, I'll take this for a long, and I'm going for 63.50. A stop for me would be a daily close back below the daily 10 SMA, which currently sits at 55.66. All right, we got SQ. SQ, been on an absolute tear, pulling back nicely to its 10 SMA and right around its 0.236 retrace from this low to this high, holding it. And if we can get a close, a daily close back above Thursday's high right here of 144, I'm going to take this thing for a long and go for this 172, 176 area for a target. And my stop will be a daily close back below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 142.12. All right, next up we got True, TRUE, True Car. Exploded above its 200 SMA and is holding above its 10 SMA after this brief pullback. If it can get back above Friday's high of 536, I'm going to take this thing for a long with a first target of 743 and then a loftier second target of 950. And my stop will be a daily close back below the 10 SMA, which is currently sitting at 479. Really nice reward to risk right here. Okay, next up we got Work. Work has had a nice run, but has recently tailed off and has pulled back, but is still holding this 200 SMA. If it can get back above this downtrend line, I'm willing to take this one for a long with a first target of 36.24 and then a loftier, much loftier second target of 50. And then my stop would be a close back below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 29.03. So really nice. If we can get back above this downtrend line, really nice reward to risk ratio with Work. Okay, next up we got WTRH, Waiter Holdings. This one's been on a really strong run and is pulling back now to its 0.382 retrace. And it looks like it's finding some footing here. If bulls can come back in, retake this 10 SMA, which currently sits at 487, I'm going to take this for a long and go for 750 as my target. And then a stop would be a close back below that 10 SMA. So really nice reward to risk ratio in this name if it triggers. All right, and our last ready to rock chart setup for this week is Zillow. Pulling back to its 0.236 retrace from this low to this high after a really strong run, and holding its 10 SMA. If it can get back above Friday's high of 77.12, I'm going to take this for a long with a target of 92.95. And then a stop for me would be a close back below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 73.97. Really nice reward to risk. All right, guys, that's it for this week's Ready to Rock trade setups. You have a few names that you sent in. Let's get to those. Okay, this first batch of names comes from @Calero Stocks, a brand new member of our trading service. What's up, Corey? How are you? Hope this helps. First up, we got OSUR. All right, so OSUR is holding this uptrend line. And even though it's pulled back, it's still holding it and above the 200 SMA. If it can get back above this 10 SMA of 1535 and close above it, I think this one's a decent long with a target of 22. And then your stop, if this trade triggers, your stop will be a close back below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 1535. All right, next up you got QRVO, QRVO Inc. This one's looking really good. Above its 10 SMA currently. If it can get back above Friday's high of 133.24, this one's a good long for a first target of 141.55, where I would sell half, and then I would go for this upper target of 156.25 with the remaining half, and then you always make your stop a close below the daily 10 SMA, which currently sits at 131.66. All right, next up you have Qualcomm, QCOM. Qualcomm is pretty extended right here. It may come up here and tag 120, but given the RSI, given the MACD is pretty extended here, there could be a pullback at any point. So the risk of a pullback is much greater here. You could try this one for a long and go for this 120 area. But for me personally, I would rather wait for some sort of pullback, maybe down here to test this 105, 100 area. Watch for it to find support there and then break down trend lines and then get long. Okay, that would be a much better reward to risk scenario. And they would give it a chance to work off some of that overbought, overly bullish sentiment that we're seeing, and it would just increase your odds of a winning trade. Next up, you got IPHI. So IPHI Corporation. This one's looking, like it's finding some footing here. Okay, consolidating, but this could be a bear flag before the next wave lower to possibly test this 200 SMA, around 95. So I would wait for a close back above this 10 SMA if you want to get long. The 10 SMA currently sits at 122.13. If it can close back above there and hold these lows, close back above there, well, then you can go for a 160 target. But I would be patient and wait because we could see lower. Wait until this 10 SMA is taken out and we close above it. Okay, these next two stocks are from @BTANBB, another member. How are you, my friend? Hopefully this helps. AZN. AZN's your first name. AZN's looking good. Consolidating nicely after a big run up, holding the 50 SMA. If it can get back above these highs right here, it looks like a Wednesday of 57.18 and get a close above that, I think it's a decent long for a target of 68.70. And then your stop will be a close back below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 55.88. So if it does trigger, you got a really nice reward to risk trade scenario. Next up, you got QTRX. QTRX looking good as well. I have a target of 40, and since this is above the 10 SMA, this is a long. I mean, this could trigger at open on Monday as long as it's above the 10 SMA. So my target will be 40 in this name, and then a stop will be a close back below the 10 SMA, a daily close back below the 10 SMA at 34.17. All right, guys, that's it for this week. I'll be back again in 2 weeks for another weekend free-for-all. And until then, remember, don't trade for thrills. Just consistently make those dollar bills.